I don't need this. I'm no longer on the battlefield. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, and I'm looking at you, RJ. All is right with the world. One, the people who lost their credit card on ticket to Hawthorne Manor have recovered themselves. We're happy about that. But as you may have heard, the sounds of the invading forces above have stilled. We are victorious. We fought a lot of great battles. Failure of delivery mechanisms to get supplies here, to fight the Martians, all sorts of things going around. Real world concerns me. Also, while we had hoped to have a great French cinematographer bring you an amazing battle sequence to show you how we defeated them, as we defeated them, we discovered that you can't do that while they're shooting at you. We lost 8 film crews that way. Yeah. It was sad. But the Martian advance continued across England. We had stopped it in Germany, as some of you may have heard, because being Germans, when we saw something we didn't like, we just blew it up immediately, and we didn't wait for them to get their stuff out of the box. We blew it up, we buried them under concrete, and they're still down there. And we'll take care of them later. In England, of course, we saw that there were greater problems, and because immediately after playing in England, we knew that the Martians would be moving their forces over to Germany. I brought all of the German army with me, all 572 of us. Yeah, the last 10 years were real crap for our armies. Now, fortunately, in all of the Martian invasion, there were very few civilian losses. Ouch, that light hurts, but that's better. There were very few civilian losses because the last 10 years with the Ether War and the Second Ether War have made our glorious citizens very adept at hiding in holes. And scurrying and packing away food. So, yay us! I brought my regiments over and we landed up the Thames in London, and Heinz was very excited. He says, and I said, are you ready to fight the Martians? He says, no, I want to see an elephant. Why would you want to see an elephant? We're going to Piccadilly Circus, aren't we? I hated to break his heart. But I did it anyways. I said, it's not that kind of circus. Then Felix was like, is it the kind with the can-can girls? No. The Martians were into London. But within the last few hours, they fell silent. I thought they might be planning something new. Something more tricky, diabolic. And so I advanced to one of their fortifications, a massive earth-banked redoubt that they had constructed, and in which they had brought together their victims and their machines so they could sally out from there to make new raids. And I will now share with you my impressions of that moment. But because my voice is ludicrous, I will be borrowing a voice from someone else who lives in my thumb. In another moment, I had scrambled up the earthen rampart and stood upon its crest, and the interior of the redoubt was below me. A mighty space it was, with gigantic machines here and there within it, huge mounds of material and strange shelter places. and scattered about it, some in their overturned war machines, some in the now rigid handling machines. A dozen of them, stark and silent, laid in a row, were the Martians, dead. And it gets better. Slain by the putrefactive and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared. Slain as the red weed had been slain by the humblest things that God in his wisdom had put on this earth. For it had come about, as indeed I and many others might have seen, had not terror and disaster blinded our minds. These germs of disease had taken toll on humanity since the beginning of things, taken toll of our pre-human ancestors since life began here on Earth. By virtue of this natural selection, we have developed resisting power. To no germs do we succumb without a struggle. And to many, those that cause putrefaction in dead matter, for instance, our living frames are altogether immune. But there are no bacteria in Mars. And directly these invaders arrived, directly they drank and fed, our microscopic allies began to work their overthrow. Already, when we watched them, they were irrevocably doomed, dying and rotting even as they went to and fro. It was inevitable. By the toll of 1 billion deaths, mankind has brought its birthright to the earth, and it is ours against all comers. It would still be ours were the Martians 10 times as mighty as they are. For neither do people live nor die in vain. I mean, there's a long battle narrative I could have done where my cousin and I were out shooting at the Martians going, pew, 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 but I thought, maybe won't do that because it's a bit ridiculous. But he is really tired now because he's been running nonstop, I would say, for a couple weeks, but especially since about Wednesday night, he hasn't stopped moving. I love him dearly, and we'll be bringing up His Majesty in a bit, but first, having said, now, by your perseverance, you have survived yet another calamity. I'm sure we'll have a new calamity next year.